subnet is now? Based on that being your IP address?
192.168.
Simple as that, exactly. So it's just telling you which part is the subnet, and then the rest, the 00 part, you can change that. That can be anything. So in this case, where it's 255, you're going to assign an IP address to the devices 192.168.1. Whatever you want, right? And that's usually anywhere from it's from 1 through 254. So you don't want to use 1 if that's the router's address, right? Or you don't want to use 254 if that's the router address. So when we get the gateway part right here, don't use that. That's your gateway, right?
Why not 255?
What's that?
Why not 255? The last one.
You don't want to, oh, okay, that's a whole different thing, but it just don't touch 255. It's broadcast address. You don't want to, we can't touch it, yeah.
Isn't the gateway the actual, how you log into the router with that number?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly right too. So the gateway, and the reason why they call it the gateway, it's because it literally is the gateway. There's no way in or out of your network without that router. Without a router, you can't get in, you can't get out. Traffic won't come in.
So that's where you go to the address bar up there and you type that in.
Exactly.
And you're into the router and then
Exactly.
you put the password and then start enabling your ports.
Right up there, 192.168.1.1.
Yeah.
Right? And you go into your router. All routers are made different. So there's no clear-cut way to explain how to do it at each router, but there is a website, and I'll write it down right here.
And what exactly is happening when you have a barcode on top of your DVR and your a QR code and you're taking a picture and you don't have to do all this?
Oh, so I'll get into that a little later, but just to explain it really quickly, it's just another protocol called P2P, and it punches holes in the router, basically to get that traffic in and out. Where when you would do the port forwarding yourself, you're punching the holes on your own. P2P does it for you. Port forwarding, you're doing it. But you have more control over it when you do it. When you do P2P, whatever it wants to do is what it's going to do. You have no control over that.
Is that good or bad?
Could be good and bad. I mean, depends on how you want your system. Whether it's a big system and you have multiple devices that need to go out to the internet, you might not want to use P2P. You want to use port forwarding. Yeah. So depending on the network. So just a quick way to figure out your router, because all routers are different. Go to portforward.com. There's instructions on there on what window to go to do the port forwarding. That's the only thing you need to go to. Everything else.
What's it called again?
Portforward.com. Right here.
And another question, like some companies like Charter wouldn't allow you to get into the router. You have to call them to forward the ports. Is there a way to bypass that?
No. So usually that's when they give you like their own modem/router, right? It's their own device.
Right.
They lock you out. I've seen cases where they do give people access, usually in the business class, because you need to have access. If it's consumer modem, they won't give you access.
So the P, what do you call it?
P2P?
P2 or is it?
Yeah, P2P. Yeah.
Another
What
question.
word?
When it's Charter or AT&T router, their gateway basically,
Yes.
and you are on their Wi-Fi network, you can't access the router with Wi-Fi.
No, yeah, they lock you out of all
Why?
that stuff. That's also
How I can tell them to?
There's no way. They're
No
gonna. I've tried that. So even when I call and I tell them, hey, I have a background in networks. I know how all this stuff works. I need to be able to manage it. They won't let you. They still won't let
So
you.
you have to buy a new router.
You have to have your own router because that's their device. So basically, their responsibility stretches to that device.
Right.
If anything happens to your network, they're responsible. So they can't open it to you. That's usually how it happens.
No,
that's the
I'm
way to
talking
get
about the viewing cameras on
Right.
your cell phone when you're on
Right.
iPhone or whatever.
Right. Because you need to open the ports, right?
They open the port, but they wouldn't allow you to get in while you're on a local Wi-Fi.
Oh, you're talking about if you're inside trying to
Inside.
view from the outside back in?
No. You are inside. You are trying to get into your DVR. Say I live in mountains. I don't have good signal, like 4G or 3G, and I want to use my Wi-Fi to look at the cameras. I can't. Ports are open, I can log in from outside, but not from inside.
Got it. I see what you mean. Okay, let me explain it this way then. So, let's get out right here. Let's go here. Let's focus on this guy right here. So that's your router,
Yeah.
right? These are the ports you're usually forwarding.
Yeah.
80, 10.554, 8000, and then you're going to forward it to that one IP address, right? You're saying you're inside here, right? This is external IP address. You're inside here,
Yeah.
trying to connect through here to the DVR.
Right.
Right. So if their subnet is different on the Wi-Fi side, because most likely that's what's going to happen. They might have a 192.169, 167,
It's like
something
guest
different.
policy or something?
That's just how they have their modem set up. Then you can't talk back because different subnet. So devices on different subnets can't talk to each other.
So how do you get around that? You said, like you said, you put your own router.
Put your own router. That's the easiest way to do it. And you just tell them, hey, just put this modem in bridge mode. I have my router. You control all that stuff, and easier, a lot easier. Yeah, because you're gonna stay on the phone for hours trying to explain it to them, and at the end they're just gonna tell you no. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, and that comes back to the other thing too. I'm sure you guys have set up systems where you try to get the cameras on a mobile phone, right, from the inside, but you're using the external IP address, and then you can't connect, right? So you end up having to make two devices on that phone, right? The reason that doesn't work is because the router has a security setting that does not let you talk back in from the outside. Say you go out, back in, it won't let you do that. It'll cut you. That's just a security setting on the router. Some routers, you can disable that, and you can do it. So it's not that it's not possible, it's just, can the router do it?
Yeah, but with external IP, you should have like static IP.
Right.
Otherwise, with DHCP.
Yeah, then you're guessing where
Yeah.
it is. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so if I'm like his application, in a place where I have charter, and I have my phone, and it has a barcode, I have the barcode, and I want to do the P2P, but it's charter, and I take the.
You
No?
should be okay. Unless Charter is completely blocking every port, then it won't work. But P2P works for most networks because Skype is P2P and it works almost everywhere, right?
Oh, okay.
P2P will work. So this is aside from P2P. P2P is like, all you gotta do is scan it and you're done.
So that's cool, so I don't have to call
Yeah.
charter, and they don't.
You don't have to
they
do
have
any,
go,
you don't have to make
'cause
any
I can't
phone
get into
calls.
theirs.
You don't have to do any of that.
So that's the best. I mean,
It's easy, yeah.
It's what it is, it's
If it's one
user-friendly.
system, if it were one system, like just one DVR or
Yeah.
one NVR,
Yeah.
scan the barcode, use the P2P,
Get out of there.
you're done. It's that easy.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I'll go over how to even set that up.
Please.
Okay. So, because of how the router works, you can't go out, come back in. They call that NAT hairpin. If your router has that enabled, then you can do it. If it has it disabled, you can't do it. So most routers should let you do it. At least the higher end router should let you do it. Okay. So
That's like the iPads. When you're using an iPad, you really don't have a connection broadband. You have a Wi-Fi connection to your router. So
right, exactly. Yeah. If you're internal iPads or you're just on your Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So all right. In this scenario, what I've done, I've set up 3 different recorders. There's some cameras here, and they're connected via this switch. So, right, because I want them all to be able to talk to each other, you notice how they're all on the same subnet, 192.168.1, 192.168.1, same here. All I'm doing is changing that last IP address. Same thing for the cameras, that's a 5, that's a 7, this is a 6, right? And the router is 1.1. They're all on the same subnet. This can all talk to each other, no problem. So when you plug the cameras into the network, you're good to go. Here's a switch. That's how all these connect. All right. So when you are setting up the port forwarding, obviously you got to log into the router and then forward these ports. So 80, 10.554, 8000, and you want to aim them to your recorder. So this one's aiming to .3, which is this guy. So when I go from that side over here, say that's my remote location, my home office, whatever it may be, even your cell phone, you're sending traffic through the internet that then gets it to your router, right? And then it asks through your router, hey, can you send my traffic to port 80 and whoever that goes to? So then that gets forwarded through here, going to that IP address, goes to the NVR, NVR responds, then you get the video. That's how that works. So if anything in that chain is not correct, like which port it's going to, it's not going to work. Or if there's two devices on the network with the same port, say you're forwarding this same port to this one and this one, now they're competing. It's whoever responds first at that point. It's not a good situation for you, right? Your customer's not going to like that. So what do you do in that case then? Use a different set of ports. So, for example, NVR1 or DVR1 has 80, 10554, and 8000. NVR2, 81, 10555, 8001. I'm just using these. It doesn't have to be those numbers.
And then with your diagram, you still have to do for the address 4, NVR2. You still need another set of...
Well, I'm not forwarding that one out.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. You could.
Right.
Yeah, so then that would be 82,
Yeah.
10556,
Whatever,
8002, or it could be any, there's the port range is, you can use,
65 something.
port range you can use is 1024 through 65,000, let's just say 65,535. That's the range you can use. So it's a huge range. You have plenty of ports to spare.
What is determining what to allow? Is the NVR the one that decides that you're making different ports?
Well, yeah, you would have to put it on the NVR. So the NVR on its network settings, all you could do is change the ports. Yeah, so you know how the ports are already there? It tells you 80, 10554. I see 443 also. I never touched that. And then the 8000 one.
So that's where you tell it, hey,
That's where you tell
these
it.
are my ports that are available on this particular DVR.
Exactly. So when you log into this NVR per se, you go in there, you see those ports. You can change them there. So all they are, they're called listening ports. You're telling the machine where is it going to listen, which ports is it going to listen through. So right on this one, I told it to listen through those 3 for a request on the router. Well, the router's forwarding it to there, but it's forwarding port 80 also. This guy knows port 80 means my web interface. Here's my web interface. Port 10554 means video. Oh, you want video? Okay, let me give you video. Port 8000 is the management port. When you send a command to change settings, it goes through that port. Oh, okay, you're going to change settings. Cool, 8000, I'm good. Right? If you send it any other way, it's not going to work.
Question about mobile devices. Basically, if you have, say, as your drone here, you have 3 recorders like DVR, NVR, NVR. Then to view from your mobile device, you have to have like 3.
It would
Home
be
1,
3.
home 2, home 3, whatever.
It would be 3, yeah.
But with 4200, IVMS 4200, you can combine them.
Right.
Make my cameras. There is no way to do it with the mobile device?
On the mobile device, it doesn't look the same as IVMS 4200 as far as how you're viewing the cameras, but it is working the same. So on IVMS 4200, you still have to add 3 NVRs.
Yes, but you can combine them, and in one view you have all the cameras.
You can do the same thing on the mobile phone.
Oh.
So I'll show you real quick. And I'm sorry guys, it's going to be kind of small, but if you guys have the app, open it and I'll tell you where to go. So, like say on IVMS 4200, right, you've already added them. Right? You guys are familiar with that, the button up on top, that's how you select the NVR. Well, you can choose which cameras from which NVR you want to see. You don't have to choose just the NVR. I can open this up and then I have all those cameras. I can choose one camera from this NVR. I can go to this one, choose that camera, and then save that as a favorite.
Oh.
Save it as a favorite. There's a little star.
Oh.
Then you name it.
Okay.
Now it's, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
On IVMS 4200, you're kind of doing it the same.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how that'll work. All right, but just remember, if you're doing 3 NVRs, because I know that happens sometimes. One NVR might not be able to handle all that traffic. You will need to assign a set of ports for each one. So like I said, maybe you add 1 to the end, or you use any of the other ports that I was describing here. You know, 1024 through 65,535. You can use any of those ports.
I have a question for
Sure.
NVR as opposed to DVR. I do some apartment buildings where the furthest camera is like over 800 feet.
I see.
So instead of, I was gonna use an NVR, but they told me I have to put switches, so many, and then they told me they don't support over 600 feet, and then, so I just said.
Just use the DVR, that's what you decided?
Is that it?
Yeah. No, that's not it, but I mean, that might be the easiest way. So, with network, anything IP related, if you use Ethernet cable, 300 feet is the max. That's the maximum you can go.
So
After
you
that,
can't put a switch and then continue?
yeah, you can. So what happens, the switch acts like as an amplifier for the signal. Brings it in, boosts it, sends it out again.
Another 300.
Right, another 300 feet.
And
Or
then-
you can use an extender. There's mid-spans and extenders. The mid-span and extender kind of work the same. So mid-span set in the middle somewhere or in the front, whatever. The mid-span can amplify the signal to go out further than 600 feet. I've seen some mid-spans do 2,000 feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So you can use a mid-span.
So now, what is the plus of getting an NVR? Is that because we're moving into the next generation?
Higher megapixel. Higher megapixel, you have a little more control over the devices, where on like a TVI system, you have to use a controller, right? Or you have to go through the DVR to change settings. Does that make sense? With network-related systems, it's like a computer. I can log into it from anywhere, at any point, and change settings.
Yeah, because sometimes when I buy the DVRs, I feel like I'm buying something that's obsolete.
It's not though. Don't think it is. Actually, you know what? The industry was saying that IP was basically going to take off, and all we're going to see is IP. But now high definition analog has come around, and so it's catching up to it. And they're doing 3 megapixel, and they're even going up to 5. So that higher megapixel benefit you were getting on IP, well, now TVI has caught up to it. I mean, we do have 4K on the IP side, which is 8 megapixel. We have 12 megapixel. They even have cameras that are like 40 megapixel.
You have even, does the PoE work good at those distances too? The
Yeah,
PoE?
300 feet, yeah.
And then
With
boost
the
it up again?
extenders, you could also extend power, but you might not get like 30 watts. Maximum maybe 10, maybe 15. So if you're doing like a PTZ, where you need 30 watts or maybe 60 watts, you can't do that.
So you have to go to a local power supply then?
Local power,
Local
yeah.
power.
Yeah. Or have a power supply around there. Yeah. Okay? So, like I was just mentioning, there's no very big benefit between TVI and IP anymore, just because, you know, the megapixel has caught up on the DVR side. We use TVI, we use high definition. Sometimes your customers might have existing infrastructure. It might be easier for you to install a DVR, and you can still give them high quality video. If they don't, and they want to put in all network based, their IT likes network cameras, they just seem to like it better.
How come,
Go
okay,
for it.
one question. The cables that come pre-made from the factory, the black thin ones, when you buy something at the store, okay? And you use like, buy the Hikvision. Are you supposed to get the same quality with that cable as opposed to the network cable, as opposed to the Siamese cable? Which one is the best?
Actually, they should all be good qualities.
And
Everything in the chain matters. Even like, so one thing I don't even touch on the network side is the cable, but that is probably the most important part. If you don't have good cable, your signal is going through, and it can get attenuated to the point where you're flipping bits. So, as you know, everything digital is zeros and ones, right? And it goes in the cable as zeros and ones. That can get flipped, right? Whether it's because there's there's magnetic interference by the cable, maybe there's power line near it, stuff like that can happen. Or if it's a back cable, then your switch has to do way more work to get that stream to work.
I just had an installation yesterday where I used a power AC adapter
Mhm.
and a quad octopus.
Right.
To power up 4 cameras. They were looked fine, all of them looked fine. When I got to the bigger, very focal one that I bought here, I started seeing these lines. Like, what the hell is the
That
cable?
could be
I
like
changed the
a-
cable, it's still there. So
That
you know
could
what I
be a loop.
did?
Yeah.
I unplugged the camera from that octopus and I gave it its own power supply.
Look fine. Yeah,
If I
yeah.
plug it, all the cameras into the big
Yeah, the ground
16
loop.
port.
He had a ground loop there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a ground loop. What you're experiencing.
Okay, so when I plugged it into the power supply, the 16 ports, those cameras that were giving me the lines, the fucking lines are back. So I unplugged it from there and I plugged in its own power supply, they're gone.
You can use a ground loop isolator for that, just to take out that. It's just frequency and the power
Mhm.
coming through. And so now you're getting the lines. If you use a filter or a ground loop isolator, it cuts that out. You won't see it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Or at least you won't see it as much.
Yeah.
Speaking
Yeah.
about cables,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that a lot of the Cat 5s they're sending at 350 megahertz per second. How is that affecting the cameras if you're using higher speed?
So if you use
Especially in
higher
the long
grade,
distance.
yeah, if you use higher grade cable, it has basically it has more bandwidth, right?
Mhm.
And bandwidth doesn't mean speed; it just means how much frequency you can use to send the signal. So the more frequency, the better. So if you use Cat 6, that's 500 megahertz. You're going to get really good signal quality throughout the whole line. Your bits don't flip. Your signal comes through clean most of the time.
So with your cameras that you producing and manufacturing, is it really necessary to go in a higher bandwidth? cables?
No. I mean, minimum go Cat 5e. Minimum.
Right.
That's the minimum.
Which is the 350.
For you, then it's your choice to go higher up than that.
Okay, but is it necessary to go higher?
It's not necessary. It is not necessary. Yeah. You'd go higher, say, if you have a lot of power lines to go through. Say you have a lot, you just know there's going to be a lot of electric magnetic interference. You want to go with higher grade cable. You might want to go with shielded cable, not unshielded. Those type of things change. Yeah.
What about using network cable on DVR and put in balance on both ends?
That's fine.
Do you, is that supposed to, I just did that at another job, at another apartment building. And the
That's fine.
video looks shitty.
Well, depends on the
No, I
cable
see,
too.
my God, no, I
It could
have-
be the baling, it could be the cable. So anything in the chain has an effect. It's the signal going through metal.
Yeah, I'm afraid of
If it's
not
bad,
using Chinese now.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
exactly.
use Chinese.
Make sure you get good quality cable. Choose the cable that you like and you notice has good quality and stick with it.
But
That's-
it should work just fine,
It
right?
should work just fine. Yeah, yeah. So if there's interference between that cable, that's probably why you're getting bad signal. If you run Cat 5 cable or Cat 6 cable parallel with power, that's adding so much electric interference or magnetic interference throughout the whole line or however long you're running parallel. You never want to run parallel with power.
Cross is
ever.
okay, right?
You can
Cross
cross,
is
yeah.
okay.
A 90-degree cross is fine because it's like a blip. But if it's parallel, you're affecting that line all the way through. You don't want to do that. So
What
that type
about
of
if you
stuff.
run it
by power.
alongside the channels of DirecTV or of charters, conduits? You know the plastic square conduit?
Yeah.
And
It's
you run it in
mostly
there.
it's
It will go
mostly
through
power.
plastic. It will go through plastic. The power, the magnetic field will go through the plastic.
Yeah,
conduits.
it will. It will.
Yeah, but it's not power. It's,
If it's not
talking
power,
about if it's
if it's just data,
along
it's not a
cable
lot of
directly
interference. Power because it's
Yeah.
like
It
running
it
through
wouldn't affect.
basically the whole
He's talking about
It
band,
wouldn't affect because
the
it's
whole
shielded cable.
frequency range,
Plus,
right?
there is no power
Mainly
inside.
the 60 hertz. That's pushing out a lot of interference. So it's power you have to
we
worry
gotta be
about.
careful with all this.
A lot. Very careful with power. If you
How
notice,
far away can you stay from the power when you're running parallel?
Different bands.
I mean,
I think they recommend at least 2 to 3 inches, like
yeah, okay.
like
Yeah,
this.
Really
that
different.
much is enough. That's what
Because
I
it
thought.
shouldn't. If the magnetic field is wider than that, then
Yeah,
something
this
else
is
is
like
going
that's
on.
high
Maybe
voltage or
they're
something like
yeah,
that.
it's super high voltage.
Yeah.
So then it depends the voltage running through it. Okay. So
Actually, it's recommended like 6 inches.
6
From the
inches.
mistake, yeah.
Okay, you're right.
For
You're
the
right.
for the low voltage, for how high we can go, 6 inches.
120 on low voltage. What is for 220? 220 is.
I'm not sure.
I thought 220 was 6. Maybe, okay, okay. So, yeah, then you gotta go. I would double it. Makes sense, right?
If you go with 14, I have a problem.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah. So keep it away as far as possible.
Choose another route.
Yeah, go around the other way. Yeah. No, just kidding. So, all right, cable's very important, of course. So, are you guys pretty clear on what a subnet is?
Subnets
Clear on
match.
that?
They need to match.
As long as they match, you're
They
good.
match, right.
Right? Subnet. You know what a subnet mask is, right? You guys are clear on a subnet mask. That's going to be important because if you go and set up a system and they have a different subnet mask, and then you use a different subnet mask, those devices technically cannot talk to each other. So make sure that matches too. Okay? So when you do what I said earlier, here, IP config, and it tells you, you know, all that information I was giving you earlier, right? It tells me that's your IP, your subnet mask, and that's your gateway. Just match that. Obviously, you want to change that. You can't have devices with the same IP address, right? That's just the rule of thumb. That's
If you're in a VLAN situation and none of this takes into place, or
yeah, you're right. Well, it can, and when you do VLAN, it's basically you're separating the net. You're literally telling the switch traffic stops here.
there's a lot of companies
These-
that are doing that because
yeah.
of cabling issues and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Cable.
VLAN is a little more complex on the network side, but it's a good thing to do. So for large systems where you're putting multiple types of devices through the switch, say this one switch is getting data from servers, VoIP phones, you know, maybe you're putting audio-visual stuff through the switch too. You want to put that all on different parts of that switch. So VLANing is something you do. Like I can VLAN and only have that for the camera side. Another VLAN for, say, all the data stuff. Another VLAN for audio-visual. You don't want them to crosstalk too much. That can cause issues.
Subnet mask understand has to match on everything.
Yeah.
And the port forward, like the port's basically for enabled to receive data to send back to the system. I understand it has to match the system, but so it's open. But I'm talking about like just as opposed to like the IP address.
Yeah, the
mask.
subnet the ports can change.
Yeah,
You
but-
can change that up.
Right, but the default gateway, like, can you just remind me how it works again? Like.
Oh, okay, yeah. So default gateway is your router.
Oh, it's the
It'll-
router only.
That's the gateway is your router,
Okay.
right? So that's the IP address of the router.
Of the router.
In order for this guy to send traffic out to the internet or wherever you are out
Okay.
there, it needs to know, hey, I'm gonna send it to him first,
The router.
and then that goes out.
Okay. So sending it out to the default. The
Yeah,
gateway
exactly.
goes to the router. It needs to match.
Right.
So, it can
So
go
the
out.
analogy could be, this is a receptionist in a hotel.
Okay.
Or you know, on a phone, it's like your PBX, you have to dial 9.
Right.
Well, these have to dial 9, but instead you're dialing the IP
Okay, so
address.
that's the default, and then the ports basically send it back in. The
Yes.
port forwarding, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Well, the ports tell the system what service,
Yeah.
what device. So yeah, you want to match all that. So you're mapping the network for the router. Computers are stupid. You gotta tell them exactly what to do.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to even put in ports.
So the router and the default gateway on the system needs to match.
Yes.
Subnet mask needs to all match, and then the
All
last
that
numbers
has
of
to
the
match.
IP address just needs to be all different.
Yeah. So for example, if I'm forwarding 80, 10554, and 8000 to this guy,
Mhm.
but I happen to mix the 80 to like 85 out there, this router is gonna look at that and go, oh,
Right.
yeah, it'll just throw it.
It's supposed to be unique.
It'll drop it. If you look at logs, it'll even tell you I dropped this packet because I don't know where it goes. I have no map of where it goes.
So each system should have a unique port.
Every
intact with the router.
DVR, and as a matter of fact, if you're gonna even try to get into the cameras remotely, like just the camera, you have to have a port for each camera. So I don't know if you guys have talked to our tech support before, and you
IP
want to
cameras?
get into the camera. Say, you know how it has virtual host. Are you guys familiar with that? The virtual host part. I'll get into that. There's a virtual host part where I can log into the camera from the DVR, but if I were to do it from the outside, each camera has to have its own port. So this camera would be like 65,001,
Oh, okay, yes.
65,002, and I forward that.
It would be like 8,000 to 8,000. Or, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I have a question. I just installed like this one, system here, my first, one doing the IVMS for the Hikvision. So, since it had two cameras inside the residence, I deleted the device. And now I wanna go back in and I have the information, I have the domain name, I have the password, I have everything. And it's telling me.
You can't see it?
No, and he didn't change anything. He has it on his phone, why would that?
He has it on his, he can see it on his phone.
Yeah.
But you can't see it on
And I can
yours.
see it on mine until I delete it, so now, when I go here, and I go to here, and I go to home,
It just doesn't show
well,
up.
no, you see, devices, and I go here, then it shows this, shows everything.
Everything's
Let's say I wanna
correct.
add another device, his device, I just show him this, and he puts it in his, downloads the app, and he should be able to get into my cameras, right? So how come I can't do it anymore?
So
It's showing this, start live view,
one of a few things could be happening. One, you're accessing through the wrong ports. Two, your username and password is incorrect. Or three, the address you're using, the domain name, there could be something missing in that domain name. Meaning a letter. Anything, any little part that's not right, you're not gonna connect.
but if it's right, it should open it.
It's gonna connect.
And I should be able to
Especially
give
if he's able to see it.
Right, and I should.
That tells me that this is all set up properly. It's just how your device is requesting is not, something's not right in there. Yeah. We can look into that later. Alright.
Question.
Sure.
If I have cameras connected through the different switches, and I have like an NVR and a DVR with, I
With analog, so you're mixing.
Yeah, but I eliminated some analog cameras, added IP cameras to it. And simultaneously some cameras show up both in NVR and then DVR. How can I?
Oh, so you want to add it, say you go into the interface, you want to add an IP camera, but you see them in there.
Yes.
It's going to see them. You know why? Because to this DVR,
No?
he doesn't know what he's doing. He has no clue. So whenever he sees a new device, for him
Can see
it's
that.
new, even though for him it's not. It's going to see all of it.
Okay.
That's the way I go
I
about it.
just need to look at them and eliminate from one or
Exactly,
from the
that's
other.
what I do, yeah. Sometimes I'll draw it out on a map and then I know which ones go where.
And another question, with NVR, having hard time or always having hard time to add or delete camera. Or if I can even delete it and then I have a hard time adding it back. Or, it's something with the software, I don't know what is it.
That could be. I mean, stuff like that I usually like to test and make sure what could be wrong, because I've seen a number of things happen because of that. Could be your switches are keeping up with all the traffic. It could be the DVR. It could even be the camera. As a matter of fact, it could even be the cable. I've seen all those things go wrong.
In some cases, I was able to say, update the software and get it working.
Ah, then it could have been a bug.
Yeah, but
That happens. Yeah. How do you find out what it is? That's exactly when you call us. We're the ones that'll be able to troubleshoot. It's hard. That's a whole. I'd have to spend a lot of time to explain that. So yeah. Call us.
One quick question. Since I'm doing the apartment units, and they're like 100 unit, 200 unit, the DVR, how far can I run with height? How far can I go?
600 feet. Oh, gracias. 600 feet.
That's it?
600 feet.
So once I get to 600 feet, I have to find another location in the middle of the property that I can put the other DVR?
You can use they're called active balins. Basically like little amplifiers that could amplify the signal further out. Yeah, like who uses it? Who's an active balin? Yeah, man, I'm blanking out the name. He always tells me.
But it's called an
NVT. I know that company is like really well known. For that.
active balun. That's
An
what they're
active
called?
balin
For each camera.
for each camera. Well, whichever camera you're running beyond 600 feet.
Well, yeah, if I have,
If you're doing multiple, yeah. Or group them. Whatever you know, you can put one DVR for this cluster of cameras over
That's
here
what
on
I
this
do.
side,
I
one
put
for
one
this
in the
cluster over
managers
here.
for 600 feet,
Yeah.
and then I go past that to a maintenance
Yeah.
office, and I put the other second channel,
Mhm.
16 channel DVR there.
Mhm.
Then I send a network cable to that DVR to get internet to it.
Exactly. Yeah, that I just designed a system like that because that's the only way around it. Yeah, that works too. You can do it like that.
How
But I
much
can still do that
resources-
with NVRs, right? I can still do that with an NVR.
You can do the same thing with NVR. All the only difference is an IP base now instead of, you know,
And I have to put switches
RJ59
every 300.
switches exactly every 300
And those
feet.
switches have to be PoE switches.
For the cameras. Yeah.
In other words, the main DVR is a PoE, and then 300 feet out, I put another PoE switch to boost up
Yeah,
the thing. And
exactly.
then another 300 feet,
Exactly. So, for example, here I have two switches. These are connected via the uplink port. This can be fiber. If it's fiber, then you're not limited to 300 feet. Now you can go miles, depending on which fiber you're using. Multi-mode, single mode, right? Depending on the class of the fiber, you can go different. But a lot of our switches have SFP modules or SFP ports where you can put fiber. So now you're not limited to 300 feet. You put one switch here, maybe the other side of the building is 500-600 feet. You put another one there, and you can connect them through fiber.
It's thinner wire though, right?
Yeah, it's thinner wire. Yeah, it's a lot different. It's not like Cat 5. Crimping that is a whole nother class. It's its own profession. You know, you can buy it pre-made, so that makes it easier. You don't have to go and know all that. If something breaks on that cable, well then you're kind of sorry. You run a couple of strands, make sure you're good there. Yes, sir.
Can you pull up on the screen, kind of send notifications to either your phone or your email?
Sure.
The Hikvision NVR.
Sure. Yeah. We'll go
What's
over
the
that.
maximum amount of users you can have in the IVMS monitoring that it can?
IVMS, I think it said 56. I think that's the max, 56. I'll verify for that for you. So 56.
So I can
Some
only-
NVR say like 120.
There was time when I can only do one user at a time, and then the other one said was blocked out. So I had to completely start from scratch
Oh, you mean when logging into the?
to try to view it remotely.
If it says like anywhere.
Actually, only 2 users were on there.
Yeah. I've seen things happen where the users get locked out because the system might have saw too many attempts to try to come in, and for security we block too many attempts. Otherwise, someone could brute force attack your DVR.
Okay, that's probably what.
So we lock it out. How do you go around that? You have to reset the NVR, power it down, 30 seconds at least, power it back up, let that clear.
After 6 attempts?
It's after the 6th attempt, yeah.
I had
yeah.
to recreate the user because even after resetting the unit, it still wouldn't work.
Huh.
So
Even powering
I had
down
to
and
call
putting it
tech
back up.
support for it, yeah.
Interesting, yeah. That might be like just specific case. I don't see that too often.
The other thing is that the software that goes on the computer, the desktop version, it uses a lot of memory. I had to uninstall
It does. So make sure you have the latest version. And so part of that was there is something going on the older versions where it keeps asking for certain devices. It's creating a memory leak, and it's building up in your RAM, and then it
my
crashes your
memory
PC
just, yeah.
or it crashes your software. You want to have the latest version. Right now it's like 4.5.2. something.
so you just upgrade it.
Yeah, update it. Yeah, download the latest version, and that should work. Here, let me log
For
in. here.
IVMS?
The one that goes on your computer.
IVMS 4200. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Let me ask for internet real quick. Do you guys have internet here? You guys have Wi-Fi? Which was the Wi-Fi?
Panda.
Panda?
Panda with a T.
Yeah,
Oh, Panda. This one. All right. Well, Panda.
That's what I heard.
I like that name though. What's the password?
Louder.
Okay. Password's Panda. Oh.
You know what? They gave you the wrong password.
not, I'll just connect to my house Wi-Fi. That's cool.
And another question.
Sure.
What's the speed that DVR on VR or NVR transmits the video? And how can we increase it?
So
If I go on my cell phone viewing and I put clear to see high definition, I have a hard time seeing it normally.
oh, I see
Especially
what
live,
you're saying.
especially live, not the recording, but the live picture.
So that like the whole system, any part in the system, whether it's a switch, whether it's a router, whether it's the internet, how much upload speed you have, that's gonna limit your speed. The NVR or the DVR, the port in the back is a 1 gig port. That's enough to support the DVR. So that'll send it to the switch, right?
Okay, but when I use, say, a replay it, playback,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. But when I go live, it starts freezing.
That can have a lot to do with the upload speed.
And it's not-
There's other things going on the network too that is
What's
beyond.
the difference?
How much
it's a
bandwidth
video
per
from
camera?
DVR or NVR.
It's that. Well, it looks like
It's a recorded or live. What's the difference?
in this it looks like video, right?
Yeah.
When you're doing recorded video,
Yeah.
it's not live streaming. I can throttle that back. The internet, basically the way IP works,
Mm-hmm.
it has a little. It's not as network intense as live video. Live video is constantly sending full rate all the time. When you pull video, I'm able to increase
Only
and
the
decrease.
movement you-
It has a little more. It's not as sensitive basically when you do playback and when you do live video. Live video is coming at you full speed all the time. So anything in this chain that can't keep up, you're gonna have issues. With pulling remote video or recorded video, I can pull it slow, I can pull it fast. Has a little more flexibility. That's why that type of stuff.
So when you go into a home and they have internet, and you go to, what's my speed, the internet speed?
Yeah,
what is the-
test, yeah.
What should it be for the system to work properly?
It will vary per system. So depending on how many cameras you're going to be at one time,
Yeah, 16.
right? 16 cameras, depending how many megapixels, frame rate, all that matters. But usual case I see, 15 megabits per second,
That's download?
very minimum, and that's using
Upload?
yeah, that's upload. Download is coming in.
Yeah.
When we're sending out, that doesn't even matter.
So the download doesn't matter, it's the upload.
Download doesn't matter.
Okay, so the
We're
upload should be
sending out.
15.
So it has to be files.
I was gonna say, you're not gonna get that with
You've
your router.
done
You're
it.
lucky
You've
you
done
get 5 with
yeah,
that.
yeah. You've
Really?
done. I do 5. I have 5 at home, but I'm not pulling 16 cameras. I know I can't. I'll do it at Substream maybe. Substream, which is like 1 SIF resolution,
Yeah.
maybe 8 frames per second. Okay, now I have something to work with. But if it's the full resolution, full frame rate, maybe 1, and maybe that might be too much for 5 megabits. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's limitation on the internet service
So on
provider
a
side.
16 camera system now, and if you've only got 5 megabit upload, you need to limit your cameras on your...
For the substream, yeah.
on
Use
your
the
app.
substream instead of the mainstream. Substream's a lot lower resolution.
Right.
You
Okay.
can change the settings for frame rate. You can even bring it down to lower resolution.
Right.
Are
And
you
then you
going
can-
a phone to Substream instead of mainstream? If you're going viewing it.
It changes. It could be main or substream. Clear, fluent.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Clear is mainstream.
Right.
Fluent is substream. Yeah. It's just sending you whatever it can
And
so
then
you
I
get the
can
more real
play-
time.
I can play with the DVR on the NVR.
Yeah.
To raise the Substream.
Yeah,
a
you
little
change.
bit.
Yeah, or
Okay.
bring it down.
Yeah, we'll bring it down.
Or bring it down, yeah. So you have those options, and of course, like I said, most limitation is right here. And it's not the router, it's your upload speed.
Fine.
Internally, if you did the same thing, most likely it's fast, you have no issues there. Right?
Can you hook up a wireless network card on this system?
No, I've tried. I've tried adapters, they won't work. So because it's a stripped down version of Linux, it doesn't have any drivers for those like network cards, whatever you put in.
Samsung.
Yeah, exactly.
I took
I've
one
seen
out
that.
the other day and I had to run a cable.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes what I do for that, I just use a little bridge. Like, you know, they have the nano stations here. That's a wireless bridge. I can do that to send it out. Or hook up an access point to it. Now you have an access point for wireless that will route your traffic to that
Oh,
device. Yeah, you can do it that way. Yeah. So we're pushing for them to allow wireless adapters.
especially in homes when you
Yeah, it
gotta run a
happens.
network
Yeah.
and you
Yeah,
gotta break
exactly.
through a wall.
Well, we do have the wireless NVRs. You can always go that route. Me personally, I'm not sure how well the wireless works on those, but those are available. Yeah.
Is this what you were talking about, the active? But this is for USB?
Yeah, that's USB. Yeah, so any type of cabling system can have an amplifier.
This is it?
Yeah, something like that. Yep. All right, so routers, switches, IP addresses, all that. You guys are clear with that type of stuff? Oh, of course. When you're accessing your system from the outside world, you don't want to use this IP address. That's your internal IP address. You want to use the external IP address. If you use internal IP address, this router, for whatever you send from the internet, it's not going to know what it is. Because these are internal IP addresses.
So you want IP chicken?
It'll just throw it, yeah? Yeah, it won't work.
How do you find the external IP address?
You can go to, like, what's my IP?
IP chicken?
And it'll, under, yeah, IP checker.
Chicken.
Chicken.
Yeah.
IP chicken.
I know. But internally, you can just use the domain name.
Internal?
Is it external?
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you set up DDNS.
Okay.
So I'll explain that. Watch.
Right.
What's my IP? See, now it tells me my external IP address. That's one way of checking it. The other way is you go into the router should have its external IP address in there too.
The same way you did with command prompt, right?
Yeah, actually no, command prompt won't tell you external.
On extra copy.
Yeah, the command prompt will only see internal. Yeah, unless you ping, let's see, ping. Let's see. You would have something there already. Yeah, see, I can get external IP addresses like that, but that's remote systems, not internal. Yeah, I can't get my internal or my external IP address from command prompt. Okay, so let's do this then. Let me show you guys the settings on the DVRs. Let me connect to the network here though. Hey, do you know which network are these connected to, Joe? Do you know? Is it the same one that or is it a different Wi-Fi? I know they're on Wi-Fi, right? These are on Wi-Fi? I can connect to them, yeah?
The external IP is with the address followed by the colon and the port.
Yeah, okay, so for example, good question. Web browsers by default, anytime I type in an IP address, a web address, anything like that, it's usually using port 80. It does that already on its own. If you use anything other than 80, then I have to do 192, right, 168.1. Whatever my device IP address, colon, and whatever IP address, or whatever port I use, after the colon. So you have to append the
Ping?
Send it back to
port.
the system.
Yeah, so it knows what port you're using. Otherwise, like I said, it's using 80 by default, so anything you send is going to be 80. If it's not on 80, you're not going to get a response. So anything different than 80, you have to put the colon and then the port number. Here, you know what? Maybe until they might not have it. I'll go over here, guys. I'm sorry. You guys have to turn around. So I think this is a.
3 megapixel. Oh, you have a notification right now?
Yeah, I'll show you guys how to do that. So this is.
That's a DVR or NVR?
I think this is a DVR.
It's a 3 megapixel TV.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
7208
there's the
HUHI.
QR code
Yeah, and so there you go. You can scan that guy right
in
there.
my phone. And I can just leave.
Just use P2P.
I can miss
Yeah.
whole class.
Yeah. The only thing though, when you do P2P, on the barcode, wherever it is, there is a verification code. You're gonna have to have that too. So make sure you write that, take a picture of it before you install it. Because if you don't have that, then you gotta pull it out, and then that's the only way that's gonna work. So let's go here, and it's gonna be pretty much the same for NVRs, DVRs. The only difference is how you connect the camera, right? So, from what I was saying, see, this one's using DHCP. You can do that too. I don't like using DHCP because if that IP address changes on you, that whole map you did just went out the window. All right, so I don't do that.
What was it?
If you use DHCP. So that just stands for Dynamic Host Control Protocol. Basically, DHCP server gives you an IP address.
I mean, it's gonna,
Yeah,
it's gonna keep changing.
it could
You
change.
uncheck it, you make it static, and it stays that.
Yes, you want to use static IP addresses. So I usually uncheck this, and then I give it an IP address. So I'll do it here.
At what
you know.
point would you want to use DHCP?
Say if you had like DDNS and all the dynamic stuff working, then you can use it because it can change and it keeps up with the change.
Okay.
Otherwise, you don't want to do that.
Static.
Yeah, keep it static.
Is there a meaning of doing address reservation in the router too? For the
Yeah,
DVR?
you can do that. Like give it the preferred IP address for your. You can do it that way too. Yeah, but then the day that system or that changes, then
Yeah,
your
well,
whole
what's
thing
the
changes.
benefit of using IDDNS as opposed to having it on DHCP? Usually you can use static with the DDNS.
They're a little different. They work with each other, but they're not the same thing.
So
So
you could use static on DDNS.
you want to, yeah, exactly. You want to use static just because you don't want that to change. I usually go with static IP address, so I don't even use DHCP. The only reason they have this is maybe you don't know what IP address is available. You let it get an IP address, and then you turn it into a static,
Right.
right?
But if DHCP is enabled, then basically you have a
It-
headache, it's not working. You use
It could go. It could be where you don't connect anymore, and then now you have to go find out.
Okay.
Yeah, because the IP address changed, and then you're like, where is it? Yeah, the system doesn't know
So
where it
you
is.
go to DHCP, get the information you need, do all the work, and then go back to static at the end.
Put one line to
Find out what the IP address that's available, enter it in a
193
static.
twice.
So you're
Oh.
able to just find out what the address is. If you have internet right away, you just can tell.
That's right.
Okay.
So actually, that is a valid IP. I could use 192.192.
Yeah, but you don't get in. This system.
6.8, and we'll change that to a 1. That's usually what it is, and that's that. So that's that, right? Then of course you have to do the subnet. Whoops.
How did you get to that page where it showed the QR code?
That would be under. I'll show you right now. Let me do this real quick. And then of course, you know, the K-way, that could be, that's just your router's IP address. So it's not always going to be 1.1. It could be 1.254. It could be 1.50. So just make sure you know that IP address.
Okay, we need to match the router.
1.1. There we go. All right. So then I have all that. Usually IPv6, you guys don't have to worry about that. That's a whole different class.
What is that
IPv6 is
MTU?
very MTU, that's the maximum transmission unit. Usually you don't have to worry about that. Leave it default. Okay? DNS, that's very important too. If you want to use HID DNS, that needs to work. You have to have an address there. So I'm sure you guys use the 8.8.8.8. You could also use your router's IP address, 192.168.1.1, and then use 8.8 as the alternate. So without that, HID DNS won't work. And the reason why it won't work is the moment you go here and you use a name, you're no longer using an IP address. That's where DNS kicks in.
You're using a domain.
Exactly. You're not using an IP address. DNS will change that into an IP address. So if If you don't have that set up, it can't do it. And therefore, you won't connect via HID DNS.
What happens when the CO and like AT&T does maintenance on their switches and it changes the IP address and they
The
call me?
external,
Yeah, and so they can't get in anymore on the,
can't connect.
You would need an alternate,
so the.
That's why this is here.
So doing the domain is better because then that never happens.
Yeah, you're constantly getting that updated for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so HID DNS is for that. If your IP addresses are changing, your internet service provider changes them a lot. What he just said, maybe there's maintenance and that type of stuff happens. HID DNS is kind of like a layer on top of everything we already did for port forwarding to keep it up to date.
you just need a preferred, not an alternate.
I put both. So preferred, I usually put the router, 192.168, or your gateway. That can be a DNS server.
Okay.
And then the alternate, I use Google's. There's different other ones, so you're not limited to just Google, but it's easy to remember.
Okay, so how did you get to the queue? Alright, cool.
So to get here, we go to configuration. It should be under more settings. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Maintenance.
You go to maintenance?
Maintenance,
Okay,
and it's right there on the first page.
And
System info.
usually under that QR code on the box or on the DVR, there's a number.
Verification code.
Yeah, that one is the one that lets, I tell you, hey, check it out, put this app and then put this number and you can get in now.
No, you wouldn't use that there. That's different. So the way this works is very different than logging in like with a domain name. It's very different. This is P2P. It's very, very different.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying if I use that and I take a picture of it, when I look at the information on the device, information configuration, it's gonna give me a number there, isn't it? When I use the P2P, if I take a picture.
Yeah, it's gonna give you a serial number. That's just its serial number.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
So
that serial number, I can give it to him and he can put it on his smartphone
No,
and he can get in.
it won't work that way. So the way P2P works on our systems is it gets tied to an account. You have to create an account with it's HiConnect. There's an app you can use, or directly on IBMS. There's a P2P section. You create an account, then you use this, right? And then it's tied to that account. So if they want to see this system, they have to add that account to their phone,
Right, yeah.
and then they can see
That's
it.
how it works.
Yes, like that. Yeah.
You put your email.
Yeah, because it has to go to a P2P server in order to send it to you. Okay? So you need that verification code and the serial number.
Yeah, about the firmware version, you're working on automatically,
This guy?
yeah, I mean, updating network, you can't do that. We have to go with USB right now.
I
Is
know
there
there's a way. I know there's a
doing
way
like
to do it
straight
through.
through the network?
You can do it through an FTP server. There's no way to like pull it from the network. Like say go to Hikvision and then get it from
Right.
Hikvision.
No?
No, not like that. You can do it through an FTP server. That requires more
So it
setup.
has to be done manually, basically.
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
not be put on automatic.
No. This one has this one where you have check for updates. So, but this is using a different firmware version. So this one has it. In most cases, when I see it, that's not even there.
Well, they have to match the cameras, wouldn't they?
No. So the cameras have very different firmware versions. It's like more on like 5.4 right now, where NVRs are like on this 3.4.2. This one's ahead, so it looks like they're using that baseline firmware. Okay, so here's your verification code. Write that down. When you scan it, you add it to the account. Add that account to your phone. You're done with P2P. You don't need port forwarding.
So
when you
once
do
again,
this
in order
way.
for this, you have to go to HiConnect to set up an account.
Set up an account, add this to your account, and then it's tied to that account forever until you delete it.
On the app.
Yeah.
And that's
And so,
maintenance.
yeah.
Maintenance, you go to maintenance.
Exactly. So now, when you want to add it to any device, even IBMS 4200, you're using that account now. You're not going to enter the serial number again and the verification code. You just add that account, whatever that account was. Okay?
All your DVRs have that QR code? It's just
So
not the
on
DVR.
some, it'll be called platform access. right? You might see EasyViz Cloud P2P on some, you might see HiConnect on others, it's the same
Can you
thing.
change it?
It's the same app though?
It's hard coded.
It's IVMS 45?
Oh no, EasyViz, Cloud P2P, or HiConnect is the same thing.
Oh, so I can't use a 4500?
You could.
I can't?
I'm just saying it's the same thing. The P2P server is the same.
Yeah. but
If I ping this IP address
Mhm.
and I ping a HiConnect IP, if I ping those, they give me the same IP.
So when I go to this app, what do I do? What do I show me? Take a picture of the.
We'll get into that later.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So here's how you get into the P2P stuff. All right. Let me go back to the network, and it might be gone. So sorry guys. So all right. 192.168.1.250.255.255.255.0, and then the gateway. So you guys are familiar with what to do with DNS. You have to have that, or else DDNS won't work. So once you have that set up, now you're able to use an external IP address and connect to your system, right? If you want to connect using DDNS, that has to be set up first, the port forwarding. This is a layer on top of port forwarding. All right, now you go and enable this. Obviously, you guys want to choose America. I think there's an auto detect, but where is it? There you go. There it is. All right. You want to make sure that's set up right, or else when your system tries to connect, it might look at the wrong server. All right. See how that? So this is the server address, hikeonline.com. You enter your domain name. That can be anything you want it to be, as long as it's lowercase. You can change it. Lowercase numbers, no spaces. So if you wanted to use a space, you have to use
First,
a hyphen.
letter, then numbers. Only.
I've seen it with numbers, even just
You
numbers.
never give me a chance to do it first letter.
Yeah.
First number.
Let's
then
call
numbers.
it.
Maybe not on this. See what this one is. Whoops.
No, it does, but when you try to register.
When you try it, it won't let you.
Yeah, it won't let you.
I've done it with numbers, so it might be specific to.
So if you do change it, you have to go to the mobile devices and change it too. If you
Change the name, yeah. Otherwise, it's gonna try the other name, and then the server's just not gonna know it. Yeah, because this is registered with it now, not the other one.
Isn't there a specific reason to register the DVR on the DNS server on the website?
Oh, like do it through the website instead of through here?
Yeah, no, after you set up here, is there a reason to register over the
Oh, yeah, because that's the only way it's gonna know how to map you to your IP address. So that server that we have is constantly asking, what's the IP address?
Because I can set up right now the DVR with the DNS and it will work, but it's not necessarily have to be on the DNS server. It's a website, it's a DNS.
Oh, yeah. Well, you don't have to do it through ours. So we have our service. There's DYNDNS, that's another service that's paid for. Then there's Peanut Hall, no IP. Ours is free, of course. So you can use that, but you don't have to. You can use any of these. So, like I said, these are paid for. DYNDNS, you pay, I think it's like $50 a year. And you get a certain amount of domain names, yeah, $30 or $39 a year, and then you get a certain amount of domains you can use, and
Why would you go to a place to pay versus when you get it for free to Hikvision?
Exactly.
What is the reason?
I think the only difference would be uptime. I've noticed sometimes when we do maintenance on our servers, it's gonna go down, you can't connect. These guys have,
Yeah, but
basically
how often
that's
does
what-
that happen?
I've seen it once, maybe twice in the last 8 months. Right? DYNDNS uptime, they have 0 downtime. Their servers are always up. That's what they do for a living, right? So,
I use it for third-party controllers. That's why I use
yeah, that's too.
And when it does go down, how long does it go down for? Maintenance?
Honest, I've seen it was like a day.
A day?
That was the longest I've seen, but that wasn't maintenance. That was something else. That was like a big network issue went down. Yeah. So I mean that's even possible with DY and DNS. Less likely, they probably have backup servers and all that type of stuff. But I mean, it's free. All right. So like I said, just follow that guideline. Lowercase numbers, no spaces, hyphens. Alright, once you set that up, you don't have to put a username and password, that's just gonna be whatever password you set up for your DVRs or NVRs, and then that should connect. If it doesn't connect, definitely make sure that you have this set up. That's the biggest reason why it doesn't connect that I've seen. DNS was not entered.
So
Or
the alternate would be the Google, the
8.8.8 or your router, the gateway, 192.168.1.1 or 254, whatever it is.
Preferred was 8.8.8 or iPad.
I use the gateway as preferred, and then Google as the alternate. 8.8.8.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Now you said you don't have to
Oh,
enter
yes.
in the other page. You said you don't have to enter your password.
No. So
No,
when
the
you're
other page.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah. This is grayed out. You won't need to. So the system already knows. You already set up users. You set up like an admin or somebody else too. You just use one of those. When you log in from your phone or whatever other device.
But if I log in from my phone and I change the name, it will have to change on my phone as well.
Yeah.
But then if I don't put
Username
the
and password stays the same.
Oh, so that
Unless
doesn't
you change it. Yeah, that cannot be kept up with. That'd be a security risk. If you change it, you have to change it there too. Usually, it won't change so often. Actually, I sometimes see it never change.
Yeah, you change your house street name and
Yeah, you gotta change. You move, you have to change your address. It's the same thing. Yeah.
This is the page I'm telling you.
Oh, that one. So you could do it through there. Why would you do it there?
Yeah.
Because now you have a list of devices that you're managing, and you can log right into it from there. Otherwise, I wouldn't even use it.
Okay.
But it's good to see if it's up or down and
Right,
keeps track.
that's what I wanted to
Yeah,
tell you, is it up
it
or
just
down?
keeps track. Yeah. So for you, notification-wise, if you use this, that's all you got to do. On your phone apps, you can get notifications. Let me get my phone real quick. Excuse me. So there's a page on your phones for the mobile app. If you were to go to right. Alright, so if you go to the menu, there's a part that says alarms. You can set alarm notification, you can turn it on for any device that you've added. Once you turn that on, whether you set a motion,
This won't work.
it won't work.
This doesn't work on my phone.
It has
I'll
a
talk about it later.
Yeah,
I spoke with Sean and I tried to set all the crossing lines or motion.
and it wasn't doing it?
No, I set up first on the DVR and then I moved it to the phone. But
So once
Okay.
you set alarm notification, it knows that it needs to send an email or there is any
Alright,
other type of alarm.
it just sends a notification through the app. So you know how you get like a little banner sometimes, or like if you look at your notifications on your phone,
Mhm.
it'll tell you, oh, there's a line cross or there's motion. That's how you can do it on your phone.
So
Through the app.
can you set a motion like that and then like,
And then it'll come here.
yeah.
What
Yes,
if I
but
want
Can you
only,
do it? Can you do it right there in the middle?
So for example, let's go here, motion. So the one thing you need to set up here under settings, under that linkage action, just check notify surveillance centers. This is considered surveillance center. Any app is considered surveillance center. So if you have your app on your PC or you have your app here, that notify surveillance center is going to send it to your PC and this if you have them both open at the same time. That's all. It just sends out a notification to
It
everybody.
has to be open?
Not on the phone, yeah. On the phone, as long as you have notifications enabled, it'll just send it.
Oh,
Yeah, but what if- what if you want to filter all the notifications? You just want to notify you when you have a burglar taking place. Let's say somebody's, the mailman comes over and
Müşteriler
drops the
torun
mail,
modemu
right?
nesicjala.
How the camera will look.
Malaknere, kişiler eli dinere vurva.
Oh, there you go.
Pomağını
Yeah,
mamel
well,
ayetli
it
misli
depends
biraz
on
dali.
what event
Sıkma mesajı
source
dali
you're
farklı.
using.
Talking about like.
Like recognition.
Recognition.
Yeah,
Recognition,
we can
yeah.
do facial, if we, well, I'm not sure, this one might not have it, but if facial recognition is one of the features of the DVR, then it'll notify you based on the face. Otherwise, it's just going to notify you whether it crossed the line, whether it's motion. There's no it can't tell who's who in those cases.
So if you have
Does that make sense? So it's just gonna, anytime there's motion, whether it's a dog, a car, a leaf blowing by, it's gonna tell you.
And that's too much to pay attention to, because you
Yeah,
don't
No,
wanna
you
look at your
can,
phone
you can
every time.
adjust
Adjust sensitivity, you can adjust sensitivity for that. I set up line crossing and intrusion detection. Those are a little harder to trigger.
So if you have a camera that has facial recognition, and you set it so it knows who you are, it would send you an email to say Johnny's at my house now.
I think the cameras
Right.
have to be
Oh,
very
okay.
face recognition.
Yeah, see right here, line
Can
crossing.
be any
This is
camera.
a DVR, so it's a little,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Only the first two channels. So you go to VCA, you'll select line crossing, you have to enable it. On this one, I'm not sure if I'm able to do it on this channel, or if this DVR can handle it. But basically, I draw a line.
You draw a line in
I
the
draw a
picture.
line in the picture, and then I can tell it which direction I want to trigger. So I can go just, from A to B, that's one, or B to A, or both ways.
Every time like there's nobody here and the line is crossed, like you will send your notification.
Line cross notification.
But you have to select that the camera into the
Yeah.
notification page.
Oh, not on the
So if you
notification
have 10
page.
cameras,
You just
well,
set up the line cross, and then you go under rule settings. Hold on, not here. Where to go? Oh, right here. As long as I tell it to notify surveillance center, it's gonna tell me. Anytime there's a line cross, or the intrusion detection, or the motion, and other features like facial recognition, then it'll tell me to recognize this face, right? Stuff like that.
That's what all your DVRs?
Not all DVRs, not the facial part. Line crossing, intrusion, yes, and motion. So all DVRs do line.
So
At night when
Yes.
cameras leave, when flies come to the light, and they cross the line.
Yeah,
all
that's
the time.
always fun, isn't it? Yeah.
And you
Yeah,
get-
And you got fly, like, get it. Goddamn flies. Yeah.
those spider webs.
Increased
Yeah,
sensitivity.
one spider web.
Increased
Where's the
sensitivity.
sensitivity here?
So let me see. On motion, I might not be able to do it here, but see how this one has this.
Yeah, but if the fly comes just in front of it, then.
Yeah, that's a
It
big
looks
problem
huge.
for systems. Yeah, but unfortunately, the camera can only see an image and do whatever it has to based on that image. There's a fly.
So the facial recognition, you said yes or no? It doesn't.
Not all DVRs. Yeah.
So, but if a DVR has the facial recognition, that means he has the other two, right? The line.
Oh yeah,
crossing
of
and
course.
the-
Yeah. Facial is like,
Is the top dog.
yeah.
How you do facial recognition?
This one, I don't think this one has it. All you gotta, there's a
It did
database.
have. Yeah.
You can set up,
You go to VCA, yeah, on top left. like
yeah,
that.
see, I can't do it on this.
Oh, you can't.
I can't.
Because it doesn't have it.
Yeah, this camera doesn't support it.
The
Yeah.
camera? The camera? or the
DVR will have a capability, but the camera doesn't have it, it will talk to it.
You won't be able to do it, yeah. So most of the analytics is done at the camera side, except for DVRs, because those cameras can't do analytics inside. So the DVR will have two channels you can do line crossing and motion.
But,
Which is the most important one?
Recognition, if
The
say,
motion.
Like it'll know it's you.
picture of my face and
Yes.
then.
That's
what-
right.
What if this is my profile?
All that has to be
Recognize it?
scanned, yeah. Well, obviously profile is a little harder, but face, head on. It'll know
Can you
you.
do the line crossing vertical also?
Yes. So you can do vertical, horizontal. I think some cameras allow you to do up to 4.
You can do that.
Yeah, you can do any
angle.
Any angle. Basically, you get 2 points and you move them however you want. Yeah. However you want. Same thing with intrusion detection. It doesn't have to be a square. It can be, whatever shape. You have 4 points. However you want to set them up.
That's important when you're having a point of view camera to the streets and you don't want every car to trigger it. You want
Exactly.
only people that are watching your
See,
So for me at home, I have
Your
one set up
bail
around my
rings,
car.
I've seen
Anytime
some that are
someone goes into
modular.
that box,
When you want to
which
use
is
Cat
around my
5,
car,
you
then I
just
know
put
someone's near my car.
I use the DVR to record that camera number.
Oh, it's saved based on that event, right?
Like you have an app where you have DVR with a multi camera, so you can tell that spot the camera when something's moving.
Oh,
It's gonna recall the camera.
so it'll say right here under settings, trigger channel. So whatever, by default, it should trigger whatever channel you're on. You can tell it to trigger other channels too. So say you have multiple cameras looking at the same place. Okay, I want them all to start recording. Say I have like all the cameras in here, you know, someone breaks into this place. Most likely I want to get all points possible. I'll tell them all to record.
So
Based on one
A1 to
trigger.
A8 is the ports or is the cameras?
This is the camera channel, so A1, analog one. If it's, I think if it's D1, it's digital, so that's for IP.
Okay. Some DVRs allow only one camera on
Oh yeah, yeah, like the
Nothing.
4-channel. Yeah, the
Right.
4-channel. Yeah, that's right.
and also the 8 channel. I installed it for
It only lets you one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that varies a lot. From my experience, all the DVRs that I've used, anything that's a 4, we get 1. Anything that's an 8, we get up to 2. And then 16 and up, it's still 2. Yeah. And then with IP, it's however many cameras supported.
Is it possible to set a spot camera? Like if you have a monitor somewhere and you just want to look at that one camera
Yeah.
with that monitor.
Yeah.
Is it easy to do that?
A lot of our DVRs have the BNC out, so you can use that. The camera itself can do spot out, so you can just go straight to the monitor from the camera. If that
No,
makes
but
it
you
easier.
want the camera part of the whole system so you can see everything, but just one particular monitor.
Right. Yeah, it's still connected to the system, the BNC out, that spot out, it's just an extra
But
out.
you can do also.
And you have to go into the
VGA
camera.
and HDMI.
No.
With the 7300.
Some
No,
of them
well,
allow.
maybe on the DVRs, not on the
Some
cameras.
of them allow.
Some cameras?
Yeah.
I haven't seen
Not
cameras with
some
VGA.
DVRs allow that.
Oh yeah, DVRs, the cameras do.
No, not the
Yeah,
camera.
yeah. On the camera, you can do like an adapter, but you're getting low resolution. You're not getting 1080.
But basically off the back of the system, you say you use a BNC cable, a BNC connector.
Yeah, there's a video out.
It's gonna be
CVBS.
480, right?
And then do you have to go into the system and say I want camera 2 or camera 4 actually?
You have to tell it what channel.
And is it on there? Can you actually see it on there? Where would you
That
go to?
will be
In configuration.
configuration live view, main CVBS.
What's it called?
Called main CVBS.
Main.
Live view mode, I can choose 1-to-1, which means just one channel. And then, right, if I applied that, I go to view, I select main CVBS, and then I choose what channel I want to.
So, but, and then if you, from the DVR, if you're coming out from spot out, so that monitor would get that.
All of this, whatever, the one camera, whatever I set up. In this case, it's 7 cameras. It'll come out looking like this.
But what if you just want one camera?
One camera, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
And it'll be like that.
On there. Okay.
But like on the other monitors, it would be all the cameras, but that one
Yeah,
monitor would
so
be
it's
like
only
that.
this output is going to send it out like this.
Like only that with one
And
camera.
then if I choose another output, whether it's the VGA or HDMI, then I can change that up too. I can tell the VGA HDMI to do this too.
Alright, cool.
Then you go back to the other.
Or this, or whatever, and then you can move the channels around. So that's configurable.
So you go to live view and then where
So it'll be under configuration,
okay.
live view,
Yeah.
and then video output interface, you select which one it is. Live view mode, you select how you want it to come out.
Okay, so you can select which camera.
And then after that, you go to the view side and select which camera.
Okay.
So A1 or A3 or whichever one.
So basically in the back of the system, that's where you send the cable to
Yeah,
that, to
the
that
cable
one,
goes
to
out to
that one monitor.
Okay. On our DVR, we can switch the cables and get all the movement for the camera. However, we do
On
the
IP?
DVR.
On the plug and play, it's by port, kind of like this.
Doesn't help.
Really?
Yeah.
It should be by port.
Doesn't help. I switch it to that, and especially if I have cameras covered through different switches. No idea how to do that.
I know that when I plug into the ports in the back, whichever port I go is camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. Maybe on the Pro Series it's different because that's whatever came in first is first. Whatever it's first in, it's just whatever comes in. You can take your time and go one by one if you want to have it like that. It's difficult, so that's why they made this where you can change this around.
Because on, let's say, on an NVR, I put it like 60 channel NVR, 6 cameras, straight connection, and the rest of them are different
Switches,
switches.
yeah.
And I can't move it.
Yeah, on the switches,
On
yeah.
the screen, you can move it, but then it goes back. On the screen, you can just.
Oh, on this screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to do it here. You have to do it on this side. If you do it here, it saves forever.
Oh,
So, see how this one's A3?
okay.
It'll always be A3 from that point on. Unless,
Even if you power down?
But
make
this is
it
only
A1.
on the external port that you're talking about. This is either the VGA or HDMI.
right,
Only. It's not on your app or on your computer.
right. On the app, then you gotta do it on the app. And you save that view that way. On the PC, same thing. You gotta set it up, save it that way.
What you're selecting in here, it's only your ports in the back.
Yes.
It's either port. You have
Right,
two
right,
ports.
right, yeah. So on your apps, it'll come in however it got brought in.
That's right.
But you can save a view and bring it up that way every time. On your app, like I'll show you IDMS, how I do it. Alright, so here's where you would do it for these outputs. You have to set it up here. It will always come up that way here. Alright, let me see. So I think we went a little off track here, but yeah, oh, good job. I think you got what you needed.
It'll work.
Yeah, sorry guys. Okay, so here's platform access, that's P2P. Otherwise you're using DDNS or the IP address, the external IP address, right? For notifications, as long as you tell it to notify surveillance center, that works too. There's the email. Honestly, I don't like to use this too much. It's not very flexible. You email to 3 people, whatever goes out, goes out. You can't select this guy gets only this, and then this guy gets this. It's everybody gets everything, right? So it's not like a actual mail server that has all those rules you can set up. This just sends. That's all it does. So in order for this to
But
work,
if a client wants to get an email, we can still set
you
it
can
up
set
on-
this up, but they're gonna get every notification, everything that you set up. Whether you set up line crossing, motion, or the hard drive
Alarm.
fail, alarmed, anything. They're gonna get everything.
Can you
So-
show us how to set it up?
So for this, the usual case, every SMTP server is different. They have their own address and their own server address. But for Google, I'll use Google because that's a good example. It's Google, it's smtp.gmail.com, right? So you would put SMTP, and I don't like doing it through this. I'd rather do it through my computer because this takes forever.
Double.
Yeah, because you're clicking. Alright, well, let's pretend it says SMTP Google's gmail.com, right?
Okay, and the ports?
SMTP port. So that's changed now. Before we were using 485. Now you can't use 485. Now you have to use 587? 857. 587. That's right. 587. Because Google has changed the way that we connect to their servers.
Okay.
So you use 587 now. Alright, and you have to enable SSL. They're using TLS. So in case you guys need to know that, we're using TLS, that's TLS port, but we're sending it over SSL. So it still kind of works the same. Alright? Sender address, or that's not even the sender address, you can just give it a name. Any name, right? I'll call it the G, because he's a G. Alright, and then sender's address. Now you're putting in the address. So they know who is coming
The
from.
email address.
Yeah, the email address. So you can put, KOA dot, Joe at KOA or whatever. Right? Yeah. So any address. So that has nothing to do with responding. Maybe you want to send it from like a address where they respond and tell somebody like, hey, something happened, can you check it out? That way they can just click on the link. This is going to get added as a link. And then you can select up to 3 receivers. You don't have to configure all of them. You can do one. So you put their name, their address, and that's it. So it needs to know who it's going to go to. So I can send an email to them. And then you can choose to send a picture. Actually, it's 3 pictures. And you can choose the interval between pictures, so it can be 2 seconds. Take a picture, 2 seconds, take a picture, 2 seconds, take a picture, sends it to them. So you see the event. If it was motion, you see what happened in those 3 pictures.
That's great.
Some people do
And you
5
would send
seconds,
one
so you
shot.
have a longer duration. It's like a 15-second window,
So
basically.
that's basically monitoring.
Yeah, you're getting an email.
Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of some monitoring centers just take this.
Somebody intruded your, the perimeter.
Your area, the motion,
You
yeah,
got trigger.
yeah. So this only gets sent out based on any event that you set up to send an email.
So all these pictures will get sent out to all these 3 clients in one shot.
If you set up your plans, yeah.
So how many pictures does it, you said you can choose 2 seconds, 3 seconds, or 5 seconds, or whatever?
It's only 3 pictures.
Only 3 pictures.
Yeah, 3 pictures, so that's why it's like a 15-second window or a 6-second window. Yeah, and it's gonna send you the same thing to every recipient.
And can you, show us how to do the, QR code, thing?
Yeah, I'll show you.
App and how to,
Sure, sure. Let me just go into this a little more. All right, so that is the notification, but here, I want to show you guys this. So say per camera, say I set up line crossing, right? Remember, we can notify surveillance center under the linkage action. So now my apps and my client software is getting the notification. If you want to send an email, it says right here, send an email. So you have to check that too. Notifying surveillance center will not send an email. You have to check this part. And so you can configure that how you want. Maybe you only want these cameras to send an email, or send an email based on this, and everything else go to the notification center.
On that thing, it says like you can trigger an alarm thing.
Oh yeah, like if you,
So,
yeah,
so is that a contact closure that's in the system?
that's right. So we do have IOs in the back.
So it is an actual contact closure. So you could have it
Yep.
trigger a smoke alarm or
That's
an
right.
alarm itself.
Garage
or-
door, whatever.
A door, anything that can take in a relay.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah.
No, but you need a relay because it's,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
listen and out.
It's strike contact, yeah, it has no power going up. It just clicks, yep, exactly. Just closes and opens, and then, yeah, and then so arming schedule, all that means is you can set up the times where you want the notifications to go out. It doesn't have to be 24/7, it can be only like 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., so on and so forth. And if you set up the time for that, then anything outside that time won't be any notification. And you can
So
set up.
basically, if you had a camera
different-
say inside a house and you set that trigger up, if somebody intruded into that house, you can have it set the alarm off.
That's right.
Just from the back of that camera, from the back of the
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
based on that event. I've seen people do really creative things with those IOs, so
Yeah, automation.
yeah, they can go.
Automation.
Yep, yep.
Okay, much what you need.
All right, so that's all you got to do. Just set up that email notification to be sent out. All right. Let me think. So that was one of the main things. As far as the P2P stuff, if we go here, go to network, platform access, you have to enable it right here. You have to enable it, or else it's not going to work. So then once you enable it, you go to your app. Actually, I'm getting a bunch of motion alarms because I turned it on.
How that looks on your phone.
I just get a lot. Oh, no, it's-
But they push through the phone, they have to show you on the phone.
Yeah, if I click on this, it's gonna send me the app, and it's gonna send me the this. Yeah, I'll show you that some more. So, if you're recording video, it'll show you the event in playback. It'll give you the video. Okay.
But
So,
the videos are saved on the cloud.
it's saved on the yeah, and you're pulling it from here. Yeah. So on the app, if you were to go on the app, there is a section. Actually, see, I'm even getting notifications right on the app. See that one?
So that means that the DVR that's hooked up to that particular, it's already set up there. with
Yeah,
the
I
motion.
have that all set up. It's sending. I turn it
But
off.
if you wouldn't have it set up and you just turn it on your app, it wouldn't do anything.
It won't do anything. Yeah.
That DVR
You
has to
have
send
to
it out.
set notify surveillance center, You have to set up the time you want. By default, it's 24/7. So you have to enable that event, or else it's not going to stay. Okay. So on your side, you go to Cloud P2P. I already have an account, so you know I can go here. Here's my account. You can create an account. Once you create an account, then you can add the device. So I already have the account. I can click plus. That's where your QR code thing comes up, right? This is where I go here.
Each one's a separate account?
No, you can add multiple into one account. So all that does is now it gives me the serial number in there. I don't have to type it in. Say you don't have the QR code to go off of, you can just get the serial number. Right? I click this little thing up here, and I enter the serial number manually.
But what is the confirmation that you said that you're gonna need it after you scan it? You were talking about earlier, that's not enough.
Oh, yeah, you need the verification code. So if I do this, right, and I click search, it's not going to see it because I'm not online. The next window is going to ask me for that. I enter that, and then it should connect.
And then you create a name. No, and then you create a name.
It'll by default,
Mr. Smith House.
by default, it'll say the model number of the DVR or the camera, whatever it is, plus the serial number. So I'll show you for example. Look, here's my DVR. There's a serial number. So it just does that by default.
And then after you hit the next page, it just will ask you.
Yeah, it'll show you how many channels.
Prompt you, okay, what do you want to call to the account? Smith Residence or whatever.
Yep, you can
And
set
then
all that
you
up.
assign that name to that computer DVR.
That's just for mobile apps. It's not
No, that works for.
logging in from networks.
You can't do it through a web browser. You can do it through any client. So whether it's a PC client or your phone.
Right. Yeah, but if Social Security is actually doing it like the other way to.
Port forwarding?
Yeah.
It's not as secure, but it's easier.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
P2P has an inherent issue. You have to add them on there. This app
Here, I can go to the app.
you have to
Bring it, say 19.
you have to add them all in. This is one you can do. I don't use this app. This app is not always. Yeah, you'll have to add it. I use IBMS. That one's for.
This is IBM.
I just like HD for tablets, for your phone.
Just for it.
Yeah, just for yeah. That one's not kept up to date as fast as this one. Yeah.
But still, I can still get the.
You can still do it, yeah. I haven't tried P2P on that one. Yeah.
So, set up for every device?
Yes. Every device you have to scan in and you have to use a verification code. From how I know how P2P works, you should only be able to do one device per network, but I've done 2 already. So you should be able to add as many as you want. Yeah. So that makes it a lot easier other than doing the port forwarding. But let me think what else.
But you still have to go to the router and open up the. You still
No,
have to go to the
not
router.
if you do P2P. P2P, all that stuff is if you're doing HID DNS, or if you're like, connecting via an IP, and then that server relays the information to you. That's how that works. That is straight through, one-to-one.
So once you do that, that will populate all that information into your DVR?
Well, P2P works different. It punches holes into the firewall. It can change. Those things are changing. The P2P server is keeping that up to date.
And it'll give it a static ID or something like that?
You give it a static ID. But because how P2P works, it's updating them. So it's like DDNS and all that tied into one package. It's less secure, but for houses and stuff like that, I'm not too concerned. If it's high profile customer, then you probably don't want to use P2P. Yeah.
If it's very easy to do that, why do we do this?
That's more secure.
That's it.
More control. This P2P, you just scan and put in the code and it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't.
But it should, right?
It should.
Well, not everyone can.
Did you actually show how to get on one?
Yeah.
Girlfriend, please.
Man, I'm kidding. It's pretty easy.
You don't get married.
So if you go P2P here, you can, for you it might say register, but I have an account already. See, I'm already logged in. All I gotta do is once it's registered, I click the plus, look, there's a scanner.
Okay, so I have it here on mine.
Bam,
Is that the right app?
that's the right app. So you go here, P2P, see, yours says register. You don't have one, so you register one. Once you register, then you're in this window and you can add one. There's the scanner, and then verification code there, you're gonna need that too.
You have the Hikvision
Yeah,
catalog
your
in here.
email, you can use your email, you can use a telephone
They have it down?
number. Yeah, so it's just registering an account. Once you have that account, yeah, so it could be your customer has an account, you add all their devices, say the husband and the wife want to go onto that, those DVRs, well, they have to use that same account, because you can only register one account for each device.
Oh, okay.
So, one house, one account, yeah.
And you have a list of your accounts.
Or multiple houses, one account.
Like a device list? Device list?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So when I do this, so I already have those added.
So every customer I have here?
If I go here,
Every person.
they're added. You can tell because it does the serial number.
Oh, okay.
So they're all in there. Yeah. Yeah. Makes it easier. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
You have to register first. Then only take your
Oh, I see. Yeah, so it doesn't say no video and stuff like that. Yes, exactly. Right. You have to turn it off. That's the only way.
And what happened with the very local? It goes all the way in?
Yeah, where you get no video.